My name is Sarah Woodbury, and today we are talking about the Templar Order in England.
You say England, but were there Templars in Wales and other parts of the British Isles as well?
There were, but in Wales in particular, many fewer. In the case of Wales, a few pieces of land or resources may have been donated by Norman lords who controlled the borderlands, known as the March. William Marshall was one. We've talked about him in previous weeks. He actually became a Templar on his deathbed and was subsequently buried in Temple Church in London. There is some indication he may have donated a mill near Pembroke, for example. As to Scotland, Templars had a foothold there more than in Wales, and some say many may have fled to Scotland after the dissolution of their order, to the point of aiding the Scots in Robert the Bruce's campaigns against the English in the 14th century. But that's actually a different story. The Templars were formed in 1118 when 9 knights took holy vows to defend Jerusalem. In 1128, their founder received a blessing from the Pope to formally form a new order of warrior knights. They adopted the order of St. Benedict, something else we've talked about in previous weeks, and the white robes of the Cistercians, and began recruiting. Men flocked to their banner and were accepted in a hierarchical system of knights, sergeants, who wore black robes, farmers, and chaplains. Within 50 years, the order became one of the largest landowners, not only in the Holy Land, but in France and England. They became moneylenders in the major cities and were one of the finest fighting forces in the world. On the way to accumulating land, wealth, and the power that came with it, they established monasteries throughout Europe called commanderies. Although the Templars didn't start recruiting in Britain until 1128, 10 years after their founding, by 1185, they had holdings throughout England centered on the New Temple, or Temple Church, in London. By 1200, Pope Innocent III had issued a papal bull declaring the immunity of persons and goods within the houses of the Knights Templar from local laws. This ensured that the new temple became a royal treasury as well as the repository for the order's accumulated revenues. These financial resources provided the basis for the development of the Templars' local banking facilities. The decline of the Templars began in the 13th century as various possessions in the Holy Land were lost to Muslim forces. In 1291, the last stronghold in the Holy Land, Acre, fell, and many in Europe began to question why the Templars continued to exist. Taking advantage of this resentment, in 1307, King Philippe of France ordered the arrest of all the Templars in every commandery throughout France, all on the same day. This included the Grand Master, Jacques de Molay. That first day, 625 knights were arrested. With this coordinated action, Philippe was able to confiscate all Templar wealth, land, and possessions, including their fortress in Paris, known as the Paris Temple. In England, however, King Edward II at first refused to believe the accusations Philippe levied against the Templars and did nothing about them until January of 1308, when the Pope, who was in league with Philippe, intervened and ordered him to arrest Templars. During those 3 months, many fugitive Templars came to England, seeking to escape torture and execution. Finally, after repeated pressure from Philippe IV and Clement V on Edward II, a few half-hearted arrests were made. During a trial running from October 1309 until March 1310, most of the arrested Templars were forced to acknowledge that their belief that their order's master could give absolution was heretical. After they admitted that, they were officially reconciled with the church. Many then entered more conventional monastic orders. Most Templars in England were never arrested, and the persecution of their leaders was brief. The order was dissolved due to damaged reputation, but all members in England were free to find themselves a new place in society. Templar lands and assets were given to the Hospitallers, as had been done in France, a sister military order, though the English crown actually held on to some assets until 1338. The loss of the Holy Land by then had removed the primary reason for Templar existence anyway. Next week we'll be talking about Temple Church, the Templar headquarters in London.
Although we visited a lot of Templar sites in France, so most of the video in this is probably going to be from France, right?
Yeah, probably. These financial resources provided the basis for the development of the Templars' local baking facilities.
Local what facilities? Baking
Yeah.
facilities? Were they like baking bread?
Thanks for watching my video. You can click on the playlist or subscribe to my channel to see more. There'll be a new video next week. If you want to check out my books, click on the link to my webpage.